here we are.
Hello,
Hi.
my sister.
Hello, Corina. Welcome to our Treehouse.
This is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
We are on February's spell, which is behind the lines.
Do you say February or February?
Does anyone say February? Do you say February?
I say February, but there's someone in our life, our dad, actually. Like, I don't want to talk about him. He was like, "You don't say library, do you?" And it just made me wonder. He might be the only person who ever said February. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there are people who say library as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. Go on. It's not important.
Well, yeah, here we are. This is our second Treehouse. It is the month that I'm now afraid to pronounce out loud. It's got an R in it in the middle. and what's interesting is that this is a month about moving behind the mind, which is very on topic for the Pisces new moon, which is today. And we're going to be talking all about that. And first, Jo.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
We haven't seen you in a little while. Jo and I usually see each other most days on the Zoom, and it's been a few days.
It has.
I love your polka dotted top with the little. Huh?
It's a little mixture of like old, like what did you say it looked like?
Oh, kind of like old school, old fashioned.
Old fashioned, but like polka dots to me are not as that old fashioned. I don't know. Before I start talking, I just want to say hello and welcome to anybody who's joining us now or anybody who joins us later when you're watching this. We are so glad you're here. And at any point you can, if you are here live with us, feel free to chat at us, and we would love that. No pressure. How am I?
Yeah, how's your day going?
Is it my time to check in?
Yeah.
I am feeling that it is very close to a Pisces new moon. I'm feeling feelings today. But also I'm like really satisfied that our spell for this month fits the new moon so perfectly, because we didn't plan that, and it's so lovely. It goes together in such a sweet way. And I was noticing today that I actually have more opportunity and like more windows, even sometimes just little moments, but there's been a little bit more time for me to actually check in with myself and go behind the mind. Like, I didn't know that was going to be the main thing. One of the main things that I lost when I became a parent was like, not just the actual time where you have a moment to do that, but it's like, even when I do have the moments where I could be in meditation or journal or just, it doesn't even matter what I'm doing. It's just a quality of connection to my inner space and to myself that is not the doing self. What I found is that even if I had the moments to do that in the last couple of years, I didn't have the capacity to shift my attention into that quality of attention, because I was so involved. I mean, talk about like immersion is one of the words that you were using about Pisces, in the thing that we sent out to our Patreon people, and it was like, to be so immersed in the first few years of like mommying meant that it was so hard to actually like immerse in this space that is like mine, more mine, so I've been doing that more, and it's been really good to be aware that it's happening and that there's actually a slow change occurring, and I get to notice that it's like, oh, things are changing. We're moving out of a certain chapter. So that's where I'm at. How are you doing, Corina?
I'm doing well today. I'm thinking a lot about this spell and the Pisces new moon and where they overlap in this kind of movement away from the conscious mind and away from productivity and away from language and rational speech patterns and to-do lists and toward this kind of dropping into body experiences and slow experiences and a kind of intuitive, non-rational, non-verbal presence.
Mhm.
And I gotta say, I am terrible at this. Like, I understand the appeal. In my work as a consulting astrologer, I really do a good job of describing this to people who I'm recommending that they try it out. And then in my personal life, I'm in a class right now that's called Sacred Chant, and it's being taught by a really respected Jewish elder, Shefa Gold. And it's essentially you're supposed to practice some chants that she offers. You know, she's got some chants recorded, and she's like, here's your practice, 20 minutes a day. You're going to do this chant. You're going to drop in. You're going to do all these things we're talking about. Just like let the chant carry you outside of conscious thought, into your body, into presence, all the things. And when I'm able to access that place, I love it. I love it so much. And I find myself, even in this class that I signed up for and paid for and I'm going to, every time I sit down to do the chanting, I'm just like, oh, dude, tell me what to do. Tell me how to live my life. I'd rather just keep thinking about things and making something right now. So I'm just noticing a lot of resistance in myself to the medicine of this time. And that's kind of what I'm leading with right now.
Yeah, resistance is actually one of the things that was coming up for me to talk about. Maybe not right now, but I mean, it seemed like a good segue. I think it's just, I reread what we sent people, right? Which is like
Yeah.
something I wrote, you know, like I wrote and I believe in it. And,
Amazon, yeah.
and I felt so much resistance at the end. Like the last paragraph brought up so much resistance for me. Like,
should we revisit that so that people know what we're talking about?
sure. Do you want me to?
I've got it pulled up right now. So we are talking about the action of moving behind the mind and kind of quieting the mind and moving into this place that is connected but less chattering. And the last paragraph reads, this month's spell asks us to make this place our home. It is a reminder that this is the space we are to return to again and again for a sense of shelter, sanctuary, and belonging. It may be unreasonable to stay here, but when we're exhausted, depleted, or confused, we can always come back to this place behind the mind and rest. Arriving at what is most real, we cannot help but dream. I love this paragraph. I would love to know what you want to fight with.
I love it too. I don't know if I would love it as much as I do if it weren't for the last sentence. What comes up for me is, what's the point of going if I can't stay? That's one resistance that comes up.
Yeah,
and another one is, but when I'm the most depleted, it's actually the hardest for me to like get off my phone. Stop getting like there's something about being depleted and being really kind of in the grind of the doing mind, or that kind of busyness that I turn to, even kind of especially when I'm depleted. I think that's the thing I have to do. So yeah, there's something about like, well, when I'm the most tired, it's actually the hardest to remember. For me personally, that's where I'm going to recharge. And what's funny is that I've been like the last like week or so, I've been like painting instead of doing QuickBooks, you know, and I've been like meditating instead of sending emails in the morning, and I've been taking walks instead of like cleaning, and it's really counter to my normal rhythm, and it's wonderful, but it's a little worrisome. I'm like, but don't I need to do those things? Like, because once I check out of it too, I'm just sort of like, why would I do anything else besides paint and walk and meditate, you know?
I mean, you're touching on a few things that that are like loosely falling into the category of like balance or health or
Sure.
you know, and there's one thing I can think of, which is when we're most depleted, it's hard to do the things that are appropriate self-care because we've kind of dipped too low. Like the way that your body can't put itself to sleep when you're too sleep exhausted, you know, like when you're sleep deprived, it gets harder to fall asleep because it takes
Yeah.
energy to change your brain waves and do all the things. And so on the one hand, I think that part of what this spell is offering is that reminder that when we have the agency, when we have the time and when we have the agency, and when we are being pulled toward that activity that is less productive, business, world oriented,
Mm-hmm.
to let that happen, to kind of be
Right.
in the flow of that, which in my mind is like, yeah, this is a way of living life in balance. But then there's another thing you're speaking to that also makes me want to fight with our spell a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
which is that sense of I don't get to stay here. And
Yeah.
I know that for me in my art practice, there have been times in my life when I was scared to make art because I would get so wrapped up in that experience that I would forget to eat or drink water or
Mm-hmm.
sleep. And I would spend days, like there were times when, the way that I am wired was sort of like, oh, I'm finally in this other world where I don't have to care about my body because I am so being fed by the process of making whatever it is I was making.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still a place that I go to. And I think part of what this spell is directing us toward, which is also what the new moon in Pisces is offering us as like a home base for today, is just like a release of effort. It's just the sense of,
Mm-hmm.
wherever you are, if you are caught up in a like fun but pulling you away from embodiment process, if you are doing QuickBooks, if you are having a really beautiful walk in the woods, like whatever you're doing, to be kind of value neutral about the activity itself, and just
Yeah.
to, here's where I find myself, and then to notice that in any of those activities there's this capacity to just kind of like drop your shoulders and
Right.
just breathe a little more deeply.
My shoulders
Yeah.
dropped when you said it's like about releasing effort. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
even holding tension right now in this conversation that is not really necessary. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate that because, I was kind of in conversation with myself before this about the spell, about where I'm at. And it occurred to me that we're talking about a space behind the mind as though it's like a place we can go. Um, but I appreciate this idea that it's actually a place where parts of us always are.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that to go to that place, to be in that place, could also just be, you could say, to just be in deeper connection to the part of you that's always there.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's a little bit less about, like, it could be happening while I'm doing QuickBooks. And actually I know for a fact that it has, because sometimes I get into these like
Yeah.
ecstatic QuickBooks reveries.
Totally. Um, so there's a few directions we could go. I'm going to be my structure holding role here because I just have like a few things very loosely written
Notes.
down of like here's something we're going to talk about. I feel like we could keep talking about the spell, and I know, Jo, you wanted to say something about interconnectedness, and I think that might lead us actually to the astrology. So maybe let's do that. So
Great.
do you want to?
Yeah. This is also kind of a sweet dovetail off of the resistance that comes up in the spell too, because I think sometimes words like interconnectedness, they're just so big, they're hard to swallow sometimes. Like, but then you can just look at the word and be like, oh yeah, I'm into that. I like interconnectedness, but like what that word will actually, like, you can like the idea, but to really be invited into the state of like our interconnectedness is like not always really easy or fun.
Yeah.
And
I mean, COVID connects us all,
connects us all. Yeah.
Interconnectedness. Yeah.
The bacteria in the air we breathe connects us all. Our, our diseased culture connects us all. And I'm not going to go way into this, but I've also just been feeling, I've been today, especially just sort of looking at some tenderness around, some relationships that I've been in that the connection has faltered or the connection has broken. And, there's whatever. That's okay. These things happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's something I can accept and even be kind of into about it. Maybe it's oh right, this was another thing I wanted to say is the way that Pisces comes up as like medicine for perfectionism. Like I just wanted to name that, like I can be the ways in which I have been maybe a perfectionist in relationship or about how I'm supposed to be in relationship is something that is like the more I release that, the deeper into connection I go with the people that I'm close to. And so there's some medicine for me in these relationships also changing in the way that they are. But I was feeling that, and then I reread our spell and I was like, oh, interconnection. Like interconnectedness, but like how are you interconnected with these people where the connections are broken and or painful, or there's wounds there? And then I started thinking about being interconnected with, what was that?
Oh, it's just so common. It's
Yeah.
a universal experience, I would say, of
What is?
that of any given relationships that I have, there are going to be some of them, and possibly even some of the closer ones, where there's a sense of pain or a distance, just something. We're always moving in and out of states of connection that are restorative and forms of connection that feel more disconnected or more like ouch. So totally. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess up.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's all happening. The reason I like had a weird thing happening was because I was thinking about like where it brought me. And the reason it's hard to go where that word interconnection brought me to today is I was like having an amazing moment in my life as a parent where I was just like journaling. Oh my God. It was amazing.
Starting to have an interior world again. Yeah.
It was so good. But what I was writing about when I was thinking about was like the really fast impulse that comes up to just dismiss the people and dismiss the relationship as like, don't fret it. Like, don't even let that bother you. But it's like, that's really leaning into the not integrated. I mean, of course there's like a sweet emotional boundary there that I can get into, but like to lean into the interconnectedness that I share with these people where the connection is fraught is to really feel the hardness in it. It's to feel that I love these people. I love these people, and I don't get to keep using our love to build things. Like I don't get to keep feeling like that love is fueling me, and so what is that? I mean, it almost seems too simple to be like, and so I grieve. I mean, I think that's true, and so I grieve, but I don't know. I'm kind of curious where your mind is going as I'm talking about this.
Well, I'm thinking about the astrology of today.
Oh, perfect. Let's do that.
Yeah, because the themes that are present today. So today is the new moon. We do this check-in.
Really? Today?
Tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on what coast you're in, but it's 2 a.m. tonight for us on the east coast of the U.S., which is technically tomorrow, but depends how you calculate a day.
Yeah, but it's today on the West Coast.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, so the new moon in Pisces, 2:06 a.m. East Coast U.S. time, and whether or not you are someone who, messes with astrology or cares about astrology, I think it's incredibly useful as a language for reflection and to talk about our connection to time. And new moons are opportunities to kind of take a breath after the closing of a cycle. That there's this monthly cycle we have, And each new moon of the year, most years, this year's a little different, but most years will get a different sign for every new moon of the year. And so it's a way of kind of moving through these different modes of energy and completing one mode and then kind of breathing, exhaling, and then kind of starting to inhale on the new moon and be like, now where's our energy going? And so Pisces is the energy in the zodiac that is the most permeable, mist-like. In in many ways, it is an energetic sponge. It is this way of kind of being in the world where all of your kind of like little tenderly feelers are going out everywhere, and you are in connection with people you love who are far away, people you have only ever read about, people you love who have died, trees, forests, ecosystems, history, the past, the future. You know, there's just this total expansion of our capacity to connect in a way that is, I believe, fundamentally spiritual, but that can be read through different lenses of being empathic, being artistic. There's a lot of ways of being in this place of kind of outside of the small self, outside of regular time, and in this big expansion of connection. And so that's at its core what Pisces energy is doing in the world. And today or tomorrow, Pisces new moon is our opportunity, our one opportunity in 2023 to kind of be like, here we are taking this in and beginning something around our connections in this way. And the flavor of this Pisces new moon brings in a few other stories. So there's a Saturn conjunction, and Saturn is a giver of structure. So one of the things that I always tell my clients who have a lot of Pisces or other things in their chart that kind of point to that, like strong Neptune, is that boundaries are your friend. That boundaries are what we need to be able to stay in connection in ways that are not going to drain all of our energy out. So if you think about Pisces energy as very watery, you want a container, you want a bowl, you want a jar, you want something that isn't permeable, that you can keep it in so that it isn't just constantly flowing through you and not being circulated within you, I guess is one way of saying it. So the Saturn presence on today's new moon gives us this way of thinking about what boundaries do I need to be in connection in ways that hurt less, not to be completely separate, not to be isolated, but to be touching at a distance where the love that I feel can be generative, even if it is not close up in a project with this other person anymore. We're in the same moment. So those are some things I'm thinking about with the new moon that seem really aligned with what you're experiencing right now.
Totally.
And there's a little bit more, but I think for time, we might just leave that and people can always go read about it on their own.
Read about it on their own. I was remembering that you were also wanting to talk about something.
We are very suave interviewers. Didn't you also want to say a thing? We checked in earlier.
I would probably be way more suave interviewing about this if it wasn't like, hey, didn't you just watch me do a thing and you want to tell everyone how amazing it was?
Yes, I do. Okay, so I really appreciate your transparent segue to talking about the thing that you did. So my sister Jo, sitting right here next to me on the screen, gave a talk recently at Creative Mornings Asheville, and they did a really beautiful job recording it and putting it up on the internet. If we had our, all of our shit together, we would
You just talk. I'll go find it.
Okay, Jo's going to find the link and we will put it for you somewhere. Where can we put it?
It'll be in here. It'll be right in here.
Great. But essentially, Jo was invited to talk about the theme of sanctuary and chose to talk about our relationship and the sanctuary that we create together and have since we were little tiny babies. And I had so many feelings watching this because I've been in this container with my sister for so long, and it's been something that we've both worked on repairing when it's faltered. That there have been times when we've had pain and disconnection between us, and we've put so much work toward this relationship being a place where we can be our full selves, where we can feel everything we're feeling and talk about it, and where we can do this really exciting, juicy work of creative collaboration, which is really hard to do. It's really hard to do with anyone. And, we are just now starting to do art making for 2024. And at the beginning, we're at that stage right now where it's like, what if we never make anything good ever again? What if last calendar was just the last good thing that we ever made? I don't even have any ideas. What even is art? How does anyone even do this? And then
or even like we like get visions, and we got plenty of visions, but we're like, how do you paint that?
Totally.
Like,
yeah,
that's cool, but I don't know that I know how to do that.
totally. But yeah, so that talk that you just gave, Jo, it reminded me that we have this incredible privilege of having chosen to keep working on this relationship time and time again. And that often when I say, the phrase working on a relationship makes it feel as though relationships are places where you have to put a lot of effort in and where it feels hard. Mm-hmm. And part of what we're learning over and over and over again is that when we attune to our own nervous systems, when we attune to, oh, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling tense? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feling irritated? Am I feeling resentful? Am I feeling impatient? These are all things that come up for me regularly when we're talking. But like when I attune to that part of myself and am able to take responsibility for it, then we are able to work with everything that is happening as we are in collaboration. And it's vulnerable and it's magical and it's really scary to trust that it can keep happening the way that it does. But that framing of, oh yeah, we've created a safe space to do this. It, for me, is the only way I would still be a working artist right now. When I was doing solo artwork before we teamed up, the feeling, and I don't want to be like hyper dramatic about this because there's so many hard things in this world and there's so many scary things in this world, and I'm not trying to claim that artists have like any kind of monopoly on this, but the feeling of trying to make art can often be like, I'm going to go into the scariest place in my being and encounter what's there and then try to bring it back to the world in some way that will be beautiful or will be healing. And it's hard. It's scary, hard, lonely work.
There's a book that I read by someone in the expressive arts therapy realm who just talks about the more one of the ways that like the artist existed in like old school human culture. And I don't know a lot about old school human culture, and I don't want to like risk
a lot of different old school human culture
stuff, right? So I want to tell this almost like this person told a story that's meaningful to me, and I want to tell that story without necessarily knowing that I'm like grabbing it from some culture I don't know about. But they talked about the artist being someone who was needed to bring medicine back for people, and that there was a recognition that this person had to travel to like other realms, like other places, other than like this like normal sort of shared consensus reality that we're in, and that it was dangerous. It was dangerous to go there. And so when that person had to go find visions and find the art that was needed for the people would all gather around and they would sing and they would make music and they would do whatever it was that kept an anchor for that person to travel to the scary places and then come back. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, being an artist can be really scary to do. Like doing that alone is scary. Like I do think it's kind of risky,
Also, to be totally honest, I kind of want people gathering around and singing when I have to like make breakfast also. I would accept that for most tasks in my life, honestly.
Oh, I mean, me too, but also like, I don't know, I feel like maybe like my kid is kind of gathered around me dancing and singing. I'm like, I would love to make breakfast in quiet. Like
I know it's
myself
really
in
beautiful.
quiet, but in general, I do want people singing, dancing for most things.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I
I
think
would
we
love.
said all the
I
things
think we said all the.
we said.
Well, one thing that I like to do around the new moon is to plant some seeds of intention, with the understanding that we don't know what will grow and what won't grow. And so this is a really good time to plant seeds. And with this particular new moon, the seeds that I'm trying to plant are around remembering that it can be fun and low effort to kind of drop into a place of deeper presence in my body, which even as I say that, those words sound a little bit like artificial or buzzwordy. So more just that sense of like, when all else fails, you can sing or you can hum and kind of just feel that humming in your body. And you can do that while you're making breakfast or doing QuickBooks or making art. So that's my intention this month, is to hum and sing myself a little bit more into that place of like, whew, you know. How about you, Jo?
What's mine?
Also, while Jo's thinking, anyone here live with us, we would love to hear in the chat if you have intentions for this month as well.
Yeah, like when I think about planting seeds, I think about literally planting seeds and how I never have time to actually tend to the garden of my of that I dream that I have, like the literal garden where I grow flowers, and how I want to be doing that. Actually, I want to, like, one of the seeds I want to plant is like actually making some time to plant some seeds. I was thinking about having like a 3x3 plot in our like big overgrown garden and just keeping that, and then seeing if next year I can have 2 or 3, or, like, so I think if I want to just find the words for that and how it relates to the rest of my life, it's like that I want to plant the seed that, like, the really big changes that I can long for and I can kind of taste and like smell in the wind and all of that stuff, like that I have the patience and the relaxation, but also the focus that, like, that they just happen bit by bit. They happen in like these many passes of the word bite-sized is coming to my mind. Just like manageability.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Manageability.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well,
yeah.
Happy Pisces new moon to you, my
Happy
friends.
Pisces new moon.
All of you. And this is lovely. We'll be back next month. Is
it the first of 2?
First of 2 Aries new moons. We get 2 of them this year. One at the very beginning at like 0 degrees, and one at like.
Hi, Mommy.
There's everyone in the chat. Hello. Yeah, so next month will be the first of 2 Aries new moons, and then it's the last new moon before eclipse season, which will happen in April.
If we have 2 Aries, does that mean that somebody gets left out?
Yeah.
Who's getting left out?
Well, let's see. We started out with Aquarius, so I think Capricorn is going to be in 2024.
Whoa, we skipped Capricorn?
We didn't skip it. It's just pushed a little.
It's just pushed. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there will still be a Taurus and there'll still be like, it'll all keep cranking, but one of them gets pushed over. That's cool. Interesting.
And I believe that we're meeting on March 19th, right?
I don't know. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
It is the Pisces. We have no idea when we're meeting again because we are too relaxed. So look for our social media. And all the places where we write things down when we are in that mind. And yeah,
the last thing I want to say is that I love that this whole time I really thought that we were alone. Corina, because everyone who has been here has been quiet or is just now coming in, and there's this like really sweet little
Oh.
bubbling of like, oh, and now my mom gets to say goodbye. This is okay.
All right.
Hello,
Yeah.
goodbye. That's how
Hello,
that
goodbye,
goes.
everyone. We'll see you all next month.
Bye.